Welcome back to more Sip the Talent. I'm your host, Coach Evans, and today we're going to bring you a case study about zone runs versus gap runs. And before we get started, let's break down what each run is. Gap runs are considered counter and power. You have offensive linemen block down a gap, and you have 1, 2, or maybe even 3 linemen pulling to the opposite side. Zone runs are mainly inside and outside zone, and you have offensive linemen stepping in unison to block a certain zone, and whoever shows up in that zone is normally who they block. Normally, they double team an individual, then work to their linebackers on the second level. Let's start with gap blocking. This form of running normally requires more physical offensive linemen, and you have to be able to move people off the spot. It also requires a set of agile pullers. It requires the offensive lineman to know when to log defensive ends and when to kick out. If the defensive end squats, the puller needs to kick out. And when the defensive end squeezes, the puller needs to know how to log. And when the puller logs, the running back needs to know when to bounce it. And all this happens post-snap. So all parties involved needs to be quick on their feet, have their eyes open to make this adjustment post-snap. Let's take a look at some examples of guys who were predominantly gap runners in 2023. We're going to start with Travis Etienne of the Jacksonville Jaguars. In 2023, he had 267 carries last year. 158 of those carries were gap runs. That's 59% of his runs being of the gap variety. He rushed for 1,008 yards with 3.8 yards per carry and 11 touchdowns. Let's take a look at a few of his gap runs and see how they panned out. Let's start with Travis Etienne. See how he hits it. And you see the guard pulling from left to right across your screen. That'll be 68. Pulling the kick out the end. And here you see the end starting to squeeze down. Next you try to kick him out, and you see ATN fit right up on the kick out block. Just hit it out the gate. It's a good job of reading it, reading the block, seeing the gap. Get the down blocks by 72 and 78. You also get a down block by IvanEvans, the tight end. ATN reads all that, fits right off of it. Get a nice little gain. Another play by ATN. Another gap run. Get a little power concept. Got your fullback on the opposite side, or H-back, whatever you want to call him. He's gonna kick out that end. This guy's gonna pull around and be the wrapper, and you're just gonna get a bunch of down blocks by these guys. Get a bunch of down blocks. Let's watch it unfold. And it's the reason it's called a gap scheme, because these guys are blocking down a gap. These guys are blocking down a gap. That's where it gets its name from. See how they all block down a gap? Then you got your pullers. You got your kick out, your seal out by the fullback. You got your wrap by the guard. Now ATN just has to hit it. Has to read that on the fly. And there it is, right off the guard's butt. And that's power, one of your gap scheme runs. Next up is James Cook of the Buffalo Bills. He had 273 carries. 151 of those were gap runs. That's 55%. He rushed for 1,262 yards with 4.6 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns. Let's take a look at some of James's gap runs and see how he hit them downhill. Now here's James Cook with his gap runs. Now you got the tackle pulling on this one. The tackle pulling from all the way on the other side. And it's Deion Dawkins, if I'm not mistaken. And you'll get your down blocks from all these guys. Your gaps from all these guys. Deion's going to pull all the way down. First different color to show up. That's what we're going to take out. And there it is. Look at Cook. Just fit it right off his butt. Reading the puller, reading the puller, reading the puller. Fit it right off his butt. And get up out of there. making people miss, being a back. Another run from James Cook. Same play. Same play. And whoever's your best puller, let that guy pull. It don't have to be the guard or the center all the time. If it's your tackle, let him be the puller. Same exact play. Cook hits it. Cook reads it right. Hits right inside of that block from the tackle. Hits his head on the goalpost for a touchdown. Gap runs. The last gap scheme guy we'll look at is Kyron Williams from the LA Rams. He had 241 carries. 150 of those carries were gap runs. That's 62% of his runs being from the gap scheme. Out of the three guys we talked about, this is the biggest percentage. So let's take a look at what Kyron did with his gap runs. Now let's take a look at Kyron Williams and his gap runs with the Rams. The yo-yo motion. Got your tackle pulling here also. Got your down blocks from 73, center. Got your double there, probably to a backside backer. You got your down block there. And you got your tackle going to wrap around. Now, this is a log. This is the first time we get to see a log. Now, remember I talked about the guy squeezing? This end right here, instead of just hanging out and coming up the field, he's squeezing down. So now you're going to see this puller going to come around and get on his outside shoulder. And so Kyron should see that and bounce that outside. That's what he should see. That's what I was talking about, having to read that post snap. So this is the first example on film of a guy logging, and hopefully Kyron sees that. He does and reads it perfectly. And that's the example of logging. Now let's transition to the zone runners. And first we'll start out with CMC. That's Christian McCaffrey. He rushed for 1,727 yards this year, 5.2 yards per carry, 18 touchdowns. He had 331 carries. 219 of those carries were zone runs. That's 66% of his carries being of the zone variety. Let's take a look at a couple of his best runs. Remember, zone blocking consists of offensive linemen stepping in unison, left or right, blocking whoever shows up in their zone. For outside zone, most of those steps are 90 degrees, left or right. Inside zone, those first steps are normally 45 degrees, left or right. And remember, they block whoever shows up in their path. All right, let's get into some zone runs now. We'll start off with CMC, Christian McCaffrey. Now remember, on these zone runs, the offensive line steps should all be very similar, those first 1 to 2 steps. And the back just has to read it, depending on whether it's outside zone or inside zone. Let's watch these steps for the offensive lineman first. Look at those steps. Very similar. Very similar. All those steps look very similar, including George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk. Look at that. In unison. That's what we talked about. Stepping in unison. Stepping in unison. Now they all going to the left. This outside zone left. And all they want to do is they want to get the defense flowing to the defensive right. And when somebody overplays it, the back has to hit it downhill and go. That's just incredible contact balance by Christian McCaffrey. That's why he's the best back in the league right now. Incredible contact balance, incredible vision. Good use of blocking downfield. Number 3, great blocking downfield. Whoever that is, McLeod, I think. Let's get another example from CMC. But notice the steps on the offensive lineman. All in unison. Now you got a fullback in there, use check. Look at the steps again from the offensive lineman. Pretty much the same. Trying to get that outside hook. Look at the hook by Trent, number 71. He get that hook and seal. It's off to the races now. We're already right now with Trent getting his hook right here. Christian already has a path if he wanted it already. If he wanted the path, he already has that path right there because of that seal. If he wanted it. I don't think it's going to play out that way, but if he wanted it, he got it because of Trenton get that hook early in the play. That's still, even though it happened later, that's still the same gap. Watch. That's still the same gap because of Trent's seal. That's still the same gap. It just happened a little later. Look at the vision by McCaffrey. They overran it. A lot of these guys overran it. Look at Bobby Wagner, overran it. Bobby Wagner sees going outside, went too far. McCaffrey stuck his foot in the ground. Because look at Wagner right here. Overran it. And this is still that gap right here. This is Trent's gap right here that he sealed off. Stuck his foot in the ground. Watch McCaffrey read this block. Bam. Off to the races. Him in open field is not what you want to see. Another long run. Off something that's so easy to teach. So easy to teach. In my opinion, it's easy to teach. A little bit harder to execute, but easy to teach. Second guy we want to take a look at is Rachaad White of the Tampa Bay Bucks. He had 299 carries last year for 1,117 yards. That's 3.7 yards per carry and 6 touchdowns. 167 of those carries were of the zone variety. Let's see how well Rachaad used those zone carries for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right, let's move on to Rachaad White and how he runs the zone. Now they run inside zone right here. So the steps ain't going to be as wide. They're going to be more at a 45-degree angle. Actually, they run a little duo right here, which is similar to the inside zone. Trying to get a bunch of double teams in the middle, in which they are getting, not letting any penetration happen. Rachaad just being a back. It's a key block by the wide receiver, number 14. Now he pushes 27 down inside leverage, and he bounces it right off of him. Makes 34 miss. Now he off to the races. Another one for Rachaad White. More inside zone from the pistol. You see your double team by the center and guard. 78 blocks out to the left. Should be a double team by the backside guard and backside tackle also. But when the defensive guy steps to the guard's right, the tackle should take him. I don't know what the tackle's looking at. They goofed that up. But the play side people get it right. Play side people get it right. Great vision by White to see it, cut back behind it, and look at it. Look at that. Look at that right there. Look at this opening starting to happen right here. And he sees it. Sees it and gets up in there. Great vision. Like I said, this zone is easy to teach. It's a lot harder to execute. But if those linemen understand where they're supposed to be and they run those tracks and just put their hat on the hat, if they got a back that has any common sense, he'll get 4 or 5 yards. He'll get 4 or 5 yards. We're going to end the zone portion of this film study with DeAndre Swift. He was with the Eagles last year and rushed for 1,083 yards on 239 attempts. 165 of those attempts were of the zone variety. That's 69%. That's an amazing percentage. With DeAndre running behind one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, let's see how he handled his zone runs. And we'll finish this thing out with DeAndre Swift of the Eagles. They ran a boatload of inside zone with Philadelphia last year. This is just split zone right here. Split zone meaning the 5 offensive linemen are running inside zone. Let me see. Running inside zone this way. And not trying to insult your intelligence. This is for the people that don't know. And the split part about it means the tight end is coming across the formation this way to block the end man on line of scrimmage. That way the quarterback doesn't have to read it. If you didn't have this guy coming across the formation, the quarterback would read that end man on line of scrimmage, which is Danielle Hunter, and he may have the option to pull it and run it himself. That's all that means. Or sometimes that guy can come across the formation and deke this guy and get into a route over here too. And the quarterback can pull it and have a route to the tight end too. They run the inside zone. Look, that's double team on the one tech. You see the hole opening up right up the middle. We just need somebody to come off on number 40, which is Ivan Pace. And the little shimmy shake by Swift fakes out Pace, because Pace thinking he going to go to this hole behind Kelsey, and he doesn't. And shoots that little gap right there. Again, you get a hat on the hat. All you need is a hat on a hat and a back with common sense. That's what that is. All the offensive linemen got a hat on a hat. Pace had a little wiggle in his movement. And he out the gate for about 8 or 9 yards. That's all you need. Let's take a look at one more. Just inside zone again. Inside zone right. Hat on the hat. He going to split it right down the middle. The tight ends take care of the backside guy. Look at the left tackle. Maliga, however you say it. One of the best right tackles in the game, left tackles in the game. Hat on the hat. He got up to second level real easy. He made sure the first level was taken care of. Look at that hand. Look at that hand placement from 6 to 8. All right, tight end, you got him. I'm going to go up to this backer. They taking care of everything front side. And again, in this system, you don't have to have big maulers. You just need to get a hat on a hat and a back that's going to hit that thing fast. And that's what Swift did. He got that ball, got through the hole, one couldn't go, got down the field to like the 2-yard line. That's all you need. You just need guys that's going to hit it hard and make plays. Again, for zone blockers, you need agile, smart linemen. For gap blockers, you need a little more girth to your linemen and guys that are going to move guys off the point. So I just wanted to bring this to you, show you the difference in gap runners versus zone runners and which one is better for you. It depends. It just depends. Which scheme is better, zone or gap? Well, it really depends on how you have your team structured. If you have those big, burly, strong offensive linemen, I would say gap runs would be better for you. If you have small, agile, quick linemen, I would say go zone. But the offensive line is the only team or the only personnel to factor in. You also have to factor in what kind of back you have. If you have those shifty, one couldn't go guys, I would say zone. If you have the big, burly, downhill runners, I would say gap. But in the NFL, you have the opportunity to build your own team. So whatever is available to you via free agency and draft, I would say that's how you build your team. Build it the best way you can with the best personnel you have, and make sure you stay true to one scheme or the other. Because there's an old adage that a coach taught me a long time ago: you can't serve two masters. So find one and serve it the best way you can, zone or gap. So I appreciate you guys for sticking around to this part of the video. If you have not liked the video, please go ahead and do so. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and be here when the next video drops. I appreciate you for coming out. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be here with me. And I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace and love.